Hello and welcome to the PC Security channel. This is Security Talk, where we are going to give you some of the recent news and security and discuss on our takes on, some of the important topics that we found out or discussed. So here's Slade. We're going to have a nice little chat and we hope you enjoy it. So Slade, let's talk about MRI Scan one first.
Okay.
So basically, this is an interesting piece of news. As you can see, MRI images show brain becoming inactive while answering security prompts. What do you think about this? I mean, this is a really interesting take. So we've seen this happen, haven't we? When you go and see people answering security alerts, they're not fully aware of what they're doing.
Users typically do not pay attention to the alerts. They usually, if it's something that they want to normally open or execute, they will just disregard whatever the product is saying and go ahead and allow it to run.
Yes, that's basically habituation. So basically what happens these days is because there's so many security warnings and stuff that people are pretty much accustomed to, anytime they get a new warning, they just say, oh yeah, this is just one of the regular things, so let me just click yes.
Yeah. We refer to that as the click.
Yeah, the quick click.
Yes.
Due to, present-day security alerts, they're pretty redundant and monotonous. So you get the same alert several times in your typing career or in your computer career or whatever. So you don't really, see it as a threat or something. You're pretty used to the alert system. So what happens is your brain doesn't even function when you're answering the alert. So your brain just ignores the data, and you just, because you're habituated to it, it's just a spontaneous response to click allow. And that's what happens to Windows Defender alerts and a lot of the Windows security that is in place.
Yes, and that happens a lot too with behavior blocker alerts, and with, let's say, products like Komodo. Someone might click on don't isolate or something like that, don't isolate again, if it prevents the program from running, which is how the installation of PUPs can perhaps proceed in that manner.
Yes, so this is a really interesting article over here on the MCSoft blog that I'm taking a look at right now. So we have some MRI images over here. Let's see. There we go. So, several areas of the brain become inactive while you answer these prompts. So the solution to this would be maybe dynamic warnings. There have been some really interesting experiments, and the experiments show that people respond more responsibly when they're given warnings like something of this nature as compared to something of this nature, which is just a generic Windows warning. And, of course, here they've changed some aspects, like this is bold, and, this has a different background. So using different kinds of warnings as compared to, let's say, just the simple Windows warning does make a difference. And that's a really interesting study. So, maybe that's going to be very important in the future, just having different types of warnings.
And security alerts should also not be too frequent as to avoid confusing the user.
Yes, there used to be an old story about this, or let's say there's a shepherd Tom, and the boy who cried wolf. If you're going to ask for help when you don't need it, when it's actually there, when you're actually in danger, nobody's going to listen to you. It's kind of like this. So if you have a lot of false positives, people are not going to bother, then you actually give a legitimate alert for malware or for a threat.
Yet what could even happen that's even worse is the user allows through the threat invoking a false negative, in which they allow the threat through because they're so confused from all the prompts that are being presented by their security product.
Yes, that's what I was talking about. So two things: better warning system, and also keep your eyes open, people. Don't go to sleep while answering security alerts. That's our take on this. So let's move to the next topic. So Microsoft. Let's talk about Microsoft. Microsoft is going to completely change how security goes with Windows 10. Now, I've heard about their Edge browser, and it's supposed to be much more secure as compared to Internet Explorer, but it's still going to have vulnerabilities. And the interesting thing is they're doing away with Patch Tuesday. Slade, do you know about Patch Tuesday?
Yes, that's usually a part of the month whenever, or a part of the week whenever they release updates, usually for Windows.
Yeah, so
security
right now,
updates.
yes, so right now Windows has a very scheduled pattern of alerts, like, or updates, like every week or every Tuesday is usually every alternate Tuesday or something like that. There is a particular time when they release a ton of patches, and the rest of the time it's very less in comparison. So it's a particular pattern. Now, the problem with the pattern is the malware writers or the hackers, they might be able to get used to it. So Windows are probably going to do away with that. And the next thing that's interesting, it's actually not in this article, but Windows 10 is going to be the last Windows. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea of that. It is?
Yes. Well,
what are they going to go to after that, supposedly?
Well, actually, Microsoft is going to just release incremental updates after that. So it's just going to be like, security updates and your other updates, but there'll be no new kind of Windows thing, or not, one huge update after a year. It'll be incremental, like updates every month or something like that. So they're moving to a completely different system.
How do you feel about this?
I mean, I don't know. We're used to expecting new operating systems every year or, after a period, but looks like Microsoft is going to do away with that. Well, that is probably actually, it might be good for security and for the users, because they don't have to bother about switching to a new UI or a new operating system, because it'll be very incremental. So it's easier on the user.
Yes, I was just thinking it would be better too for the driver support and the program support too, because normally when they release a new operating system, the developers have to come up with a new product for the new Windows, and they have to come up with a bunch of all this new stuff to basically support new drivers and everything to support the new operating system that are compatible with it.
Yes. So, I don't know. It's probably good for the user, but the interesting question here is, why is Microsoft doing this? I mean, Windows 10 is actually going to be free, as we all know it. It's going to be a free upgrade for most people, but so how are they exactly planning on making their revenues from now on, because they'll be no longer selling? So I guess they'll be selling to people who don't own Windows, but to people who already own Windows, they'll just have to make services to make additional cash, I guess.
I'm worried that this might actually arouse some suspicion in people's mind on how are they going to make money since they're doing this, as with other
Well, Microsoft
products.
has a ton of services, so I don't think it's going to be a concern for them. So anyway, we've got a mixed feeling on this.
Get.
Yes.
Yeah, you know how paranoid some people get. If it's free, or if it's, if they've been doing this for so long now, then they quit. There's some alternate meaning behind of it or something.
Yeah, okay, let's move to the next topic. So here's something interesting that happened in your location. Arkansas police sent malware-laden hard drive to lawyer representing whistleblowers. So basically, there's this guy called Matt Campbell who was representing some ex-cop whistleblowers, and he sent his hard drive to the police department in order to get some documents or something. And then he got his hard drive back, he plugs it back in, and then he has his security expert or technician or whatever look at it, and then he finds 3 pieces of malware. How does that stack up?
Well, it's kind of strange to me, and the other thing is, shouldn't we define what a whistleblower is? What is a whistleblower?
So basically, the cops, they probably leaked some information that they shouldn't. So they used to be cops, so there used to be some information, let's say, the police did something wrong, some corruption happened. So they probably leaked the info, and then, this guy comes in, and they're having a legal court case with the police department, and he's their lawyer, so he's defending them, and that's the whole scenario here.
Okay, I see. Yes, well,
all right, so what do you think about this? I mean, do you think the police put it in there so that they could spy and get an unfair advantage in the court case?
Well, it could be, because spying rates and things like government spying and things like that are going up nowadays, so it's a very good possibility that they did do that. I would think, honestly.
Yes, and the funny thing is, all of these 3 files, there's a ZBot, there's a downloader, and there's something else called a Win32 Cybot. So basically, backdoors, keyloggers, stuff that can be used to steal info and control the computer from somewhere else. So, and all of this was placed in a subfolder, and the single folder had multiple threads. Now, first of all, when you actually plug in your USB drive, and if the computer is infected and the malware is automatically created, it would not be in a subfolder, don't you think?
Yes, and also your antivirus or anti-malware program would detect such well-known Trojans and backdoors and everything, such as these too. It would flag them and block them from running.
Yeah, and that's the surprising thing. And the Fort Smith Police Department, or the Arkansas Police Department, they say that they actually have real-time protection. So, the only explanation that you can come up to is the police actually put it in there to spy on this guy and get an unfair illegal advantage, which is definitely a concern. I mean, this is happening a lot. Legal authorities using malware. Do you think malware should be used for, legal purposes like this, to spy on people's computers?
Not unless it's, per se, there's this criminal that you're trying to get a confession out of or something after he just committed this heinous act. Now,
but even then, I mean, malware does not, it's a malicious tool, so it can technically do all kinds of damage. It's not necessarily completely going to work out exactly the way you plan. Like, for example, a lot of malware created by the government is later on modified by hackers and, cyber criminals, or it's used for several different purposes.
Yes, I don't think that they should use malware, but I'm talking about, I understand them trying to spy on them through other means, but not through malware. I don't think that's good.
That is understandable if, in the case, I mean, if Mr. Matt Campbell was a criminal who's hiding somewhere, but that's not the case here.
Yeah.
He's an Arkansas lawyer. He's their legal opponent, so they're definitely not supposed to do that. That's really bad.
That could end up causing more harm than good.
Yeah, definitely. So let's move on here. Microsoft age guessing tool. Everybody's excited about this. So basically, what this tool does is, would you like to explain it, Slade?
Yes, basically, Microsoft has created a tool that guesses your age based on a photo that is taken, or that is taken.
Very accurate, as you can see in this article.
Yes. It uses facial recognition capabilities.
Yeah, 53-year-old identified as 13-year-old. How old would you be? Yeah, it's 13.
Apparently, it's not too on the spot just yet. I'm sure they have many bugs to still work out on it.
Yes.
I'm sure the 53-year-old loved that age, though.
Yeah, well, I kind of like the food here, too. Is that a Subway sub?
I don't know. Could be a Quiznos or Subway. I guess the world will never know.
Yeah. Identify that, Microsoft. Okay.
What age do you think you would get, Leo?
I don't know, maybe 3 years old, based on, the approximation here.
Yes.
Anyway, so let's get to the security aspect of this. So the concern here is all these pictures, all this metadata over here. It sits now with that website. And, very few people actually thought about privacy before they used this. So that's definitely a concern, privacy.
Yes, and it seems like that they're using a cloud computing platform to do all this on, and we all know about the vulnerabilities of the cloud, how hackers can easily gain access to that.
Well, I wouldn't say easily gain access, but there are definitely loopholes, and, there should be, especially when you're dealing with so much data or sensitive data like someone's actual picture, there should be, more, at least you should ask the user more properly and be prepared to, work on the risks or something like that. I mean, I don't think Microsoft...
have a disaster recovery plan in action, in my opinion.
Yes. So, I
had an old college professor that always told me that it's impossible to secure the air.
Yeah.
Basically, that the Wi-Fi travels through, it's impossible to secure the air.
So we definitely suggest, if you're, taking your picture and putting it somewhere, just be careful, Take a look at the platform. Is it going to protect your privacy or not? Don't just put in data anywhere you feel is cool. Even when somebody's like Microsoft and it's a well-known organization, doesn't necessarily mean that your data is safe.
Yes, because the next time you look on the news, you might find your picture on there saying that a hacker has hacked into the hacked into the tool and then taken your photo and modified it to their use.
Yes, so let's get a little bit more technical here. Microsoft
Yes.
Word Intruder, the tool that creates document-based malware. So this is a really interesting tool. So, we know about generators that create malware. They create different types of malware every time you run them. So basically, the whole aim is to avoid detection. So Microsoft Word Intruder is such a tool that creates document-based malware. So it creates MS Office files that when you execute them, they are going to look for vulnerabilities, and they're going to exploit them, and then you're going to end up with a compromised system. So at the moment, as you can see, the older vulnerabilities, like the 2010 and 2012 vulnerabilities, they're the most commonly used ones. So if you have an up-to-date Microsoft Office, you should be safe.
Yes, it looks like that the two pieces of malware it drops, there's a dropper, a Trojan dropper, and a downloader.
Yeah. So basically, downloaders, it's on the internet. The main malware or the malicious payload, it's on the internet. So it's downloaded at the time of execution, so it gets the fresh malware. But at the same time, it's not going to work. So if you have a firewall, you may be safe against a downloader. But in a dropper, everything just comes packed. So either you detect it or you don't. If you don't, you're in big trouble.
Yes, I've had some dealings with both of those in my time.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually not very friendly to deal with at all.
So RTF files, that's basically what it creates, rich text format.
Yes.
Now, the basic approach to avoiding most kinds of document malware is being careful with email attachments. That's primarily how they're spread. They sent you spam email, and when you open it, there's an attachment. You think, oh, this is from my office, and once you open it, you're in trouble because the malware takes control. So don't open attachments from unknown sources.
Yes, and always be sure to use your antivirus and make sure that your real-time protection is on at all times, just in case you run across something like this.
I guess that's kind of obvious info to a viewer
Yes.
of the PC Security channel. Okay, let's move on.
Yes.
So, professional hackers available for hire. This is a very funny article. This is ridiculous. So, actually, there's a website called, let me see, what's this website called? Hackers List or something like that. And they actually have, a full array of services, hacking into WhatsApp, hacking into Facebook, hacking into Gmail, and all kinds of stuff. And they've got actual prices set down for that. So you can actually go and hire a hacker who's going to, hack into an illegal server, do something illegal for you. And this is actually on the web. It's not on the dark web or, it's not a onion domain or nothing. This just open. They're just saying, just come here and hire us.
This is crazy. Who would hire a hacker?
Yeah, well, few things that you might want to think about. Well, you might think, yeah, it's cool. Why not hire a hacker? It might come to use. Well, how do you know that someone who's just going to hack into your computer or someone else's computer, why won't he do the same thing to you? Right? I mean, the hacker is going to work for you because you're going to pay them. So why not steal your data too? That's going to pay even more. And there's no guarantee on these prices that if you pay this amount, you're going to get anything done at all. It may not just work. And as far as I know, hacking isn't that simple or easy. It's very difficult to say if it's going to work before you start. So definitely don't trust these people.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust anybody that hacks, honestly, myself. Unless they're an ethical hacker, perhaps. And then I'd be kind of leery about it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would not pay them.
Well, the prices are really funny. They vary from something like, 1.25 USD to 2,000 euro. That's a ton of money there.
Yeah, and then I see $19.99 here for hacking on Facebook.
Yeah, well, that's actually for the tool. That's for just the hacking tool. If you want account access, you got to pay up more. $350. Thank you, sir. All right, let's move on. We're having way too much fun over here.
Yes, too many laughs.
Yeah, let's move on to, Russia and China signed cybersecurity pact, vow not to hack each other. Now, this is interesting. So we're having political agreements now that they're not going to hack each other. What do you think about this? Do you think, hacking and security, it's obvious in this age it is a political tool. Different countries, they're going to measure their strength in the terms of information, in the terms of, you know, their power to do this stuff. So do you think this actually a good move to maybe make a cybersecurity pact and vow not to hack each other so that you can trust the other country or something like that? Because this is a weapon these days.
Well, of course it's good in theory, but what will make them stick to this is the real question. Yes. Besides just an agreement,
yes, and the problem is most of the cross-country hacking, it's not exactly done by government-hired individuals. So I can understand their agreement, but let's say there's an individual from Russia, and the government pays him to hack some other country, and you can say that the pact is broken, but then the government could just say, no, it's just someone else hack and read it, nothing. So that's going to be interesting.
Yes, it even states here that how a significant amount of hacking is believed to basically, I guess, originate from Russia and China.
Yeah, actually, I think Russia is the most malware-infected country right now.
Yes, I believe so. You're right, the Kaspersky area.
Well, Kaspersky, I hope you're keeping Russia safe. Anyway, let's move on. So, TeslaCrypt. You know about TeslaCrypt? It's that ransomware that, first it came out, and it actually had, usually what do ransomware attack? You probably know this. Come on.
Yes, ransomware they usually attack your files and your data, and they usually encrypt them.
Yeah, what kinds of files in your data?
Well, they usually do pictures,
documents, yes. But TeslaCrypt,
any kind of personal.
Yes, but the interesting thing about TeslaCrypt is it actually attacks game save files. So those are weird extensions that previously hackers didn't bother about, but since TeslaCrypt, it's interesting. They're actually attacking game files and save files and stuff, so you actually lose stuff in the game, and that's going to bother a lot of gamers. So this is a new target.
Yeah, that could be very bad, especially if you work so hard getting very far in a game and then you get in there all of a sudden one day and it's just encrypted.
Yeah. So what do you think? I mean, let's say I'm a player, I'm playing Skyrim, and I have a really, huge save game file. I've played a lot of it. And then I have TeslaCrypt, and it encrypts my files. Would I be paying them for, getting my game save files back? Do you think people actually care about their game so much that they're going to pay these hackers?
I do believe that, and a very avid gamer, I believe they would pay that, yes. But it's never recommended to pay the ransom.
Yeah, because
in
again,
most cases,
there's no saying whether or not they're going to give it back anyway.
Yes, they'll just take your money and run with it, and then I guess they'll request for you to pay an additional fee, perhaps, if it continues on.
Yeah, and as usual, these people, they ask for payment in Bitcoin. And you know what's Bitcoin? It's cryptocurrency. And the nice thing about Bitcoin for them is it's very difficult to trace where the payment came from and where it went, unlike a usual bank transaction. So they remain anonymous.
And they're getting more and more tricky nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Ransomware, that's a major area of concern. Okay, let's move to the GTA 5 mods. Now, GTA 5 is really popular. It is one of the most anticipated games of the year. It's actually been released on console for quite a while now, but the PC version just came out recently. So, have you tried it out? Have you ever played GTA? Are you into this kind of thing?
No, I have never played in that Grand Theft Auto.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, no, I've played GTA 4 before. I haven't got my copy of GTA 5 yet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, gamers, please stop scolding me right now. Anyway, I mean, I know it's a really nice open world game. Honestly, I was not a big fan of their campaign, but it's kind of one of those games where you just roam around and have fun and do different kinds of things that you kind of can't do in real life, like fly a jetpack, stuff like that. That's been the kind of game. Well, the graphics in GTA 5 is pretty neat, but that's not the point of discussion. So what we're talking about here is mods. So, that's one huge advantage of PC gaming. You get to, install all kinds of mods. Well, I've got hundreds of mods on Skyrim, and you can enhance your possibilities within the game made by applications made by random people on the internet, other gamers who made applications to enhance the gameplay or the graphics or something. You can just install them. I know this is all very basic stuff for most people who are familiar with games, but just saying that for someone who's just here for security. So basically, the problem with mods is because they're not from the game developers, or they're just from forum members and stuff like that, they can be malware, and we're seeing a lot of it over here.
Yes, and apparently the malware authors are using the .NET framework. They're exploiting the .NET framework and having a high chance of success delivering malware by using the .NET framework.
Yes. So, before we had this attack on Xtube, lots of crypto wall being spread there, and now GTA 5 mods. So it's easy to understand why hackers are going after this, because GTA 5 is pretty much a hot topic these days, and I'm definitely sure that there's a large modding community here. People install a ton of mods, so if they do come across this mod, you might be in trouble. So we definitely recommend when you're especially when you're getting mods for a game, either get it from a trusted forum or source. If you cannot verify it, just look at the comments and make sure somebody else actually downloaded it.
Yes, user reviews are always key in things like this.
Yes. All right, so the last topic I guess we're going to discuss is Password Alert, Google's new form of defense against phishing. So this is an interesting tool developed by Google, and what they're doing over here is they basically created a tool that kind of remembers your username and password, or saves it locally in a secure place. And if you're going to type that information into another website that is not a Google website, it is going to give you a warning that you wrote your website on probably a phishing website or somewhere you shouldn't have. So do you think that this is a good approach?
Yes, I do, because according to a Google study, it says that phishing attacks have a success rate of 45%. So I think that this will be great to remedy the amount of people that fall for phishing attacks.
Yes, and now that people are using Google accounts for pretty much everything, they use Google to log into other websites, to, make other
Sync
accounts.
Their favorites,
yes,
everything.
Yes, everything. So if you protect your Google account, you're going to protect a lot of stuff. But then again, the concern is, it is basically remembering your username and password in order to protect you, but what if that is compromised? So definitely more security vulnerabilities open up due to this. So that is going to be a concern. But anyway, it's good to see that people are taking note of these things. But again, this is a version 1 tool. I hope this is improved. And at least, I want Google to make absolutely sure that, how they're storing the username and password and how they're matching it, it should be spot on. If they have any problems there or any vulnerabilities, it may actually do more damage than good. So
yeah, and it's
Okay,
always a good practice to actually use different passwords for different sites in theory.
Yes.
Because
but that again
it's
limits
a lot harder to get several others.
Yes, but that limits the functionality of this tool, because it's only going to work for your Google account and not for other websites. So if your phishing website steals your bank credentials, well, this tool is not going to help.
Yeah, let's just hope you have something else to block stuff like that, huh?
Yeah, that's what we hope. So I hope you guys enjoyed the security discussions. We had a lot of fun over here. I mean, this is the first time we're doing it. Let us know if you enjoy it and if you want to see more of this in the future, because we'd love to bring news right to you guys. So I'm looking forward to making the Peace Security channel a little bit more than just, the traditional antivirus reviews. Of course, those will be there. They're not going anywhere. But maybe we should inform our
expanding.
Yes, we are expanding, and we're hoping we'll be able to bring better content to you guys. So of course, we're new to this, so if we made any mistakes, or if it was not the best, please give us feedback and let us know what you think. That is the key thing here, because we're just starting on this security talk. So the feedback you give will be used greatly to improve future episodes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Signing out. See you next time. Slade, you want to say something? Say goodbye to everyone.
Yes, bye everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video.
Okay, stay informed, stay secure.